and into the Nolan Wells death bombshell. Joining us tonight, Nolan's friends' lawyers fight back. Who's telling the truth? They think they know, but do they? I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. Have the friends taken polygraphs?
Well, from my understanding, all but I believe one took a polygraph, and from what was told to me, that they all passed. And all of the ones that took a polygraph took one without a lawyer. And they cooperated with law enforcement. So from my understanding, everybody took a polygraph test.
Why do you say that's from what you understand? Did they tell you they took a poly and passed?
Yes, ma'am. They told me that they did it. I wasn't there. So that's what I'm saying from my understanding. They told me that all the boys except one, which is Warren, I believe, took a polygraph test. All of them did not have lawyers and did it and cooperated with police. Warren also cooperated with police. I just believe he didn't take a lot to take the test, but Warren is the young man that I interviewed. So according to what they told me, they all took a lot to take test and passed. And it's an equivalent of a lot to take the test. It's not a traditional lot to take test, but it's the same theology of trying to get to if a person is lying. I don't know the name of it. It's an equivalent of a lot to take the test. It's a different methodology. I don't believe it was a polygraph test. I believe they took other stressors in order to analyze if the people were telling the truth or not. So then the answer to
did they take a polygraph would be no. That is Officer Tatum from The Officer Tatum on YouTube. Joining us tonight are two very special guests. They are convinced of the friends, and when I say quoties, I don't mean they are or they're not friends, because I don't know. The young men on the Triton boat that took Nolan Wells to Horn Island. Many argue he was on the boat on the return when foul play occurred. Many argue he was not. In fact, the timeline has blown up because there are reports that Nolan Wells was seen on the island after the friend's boat left, which would exonerate them. Is that true? I don't know, and I'm trying to find out. For me, nobody's guilty and everybody's a suspect because the truth yet. But we will. Joining us tonight, Tyler Cox, the lawyer for several of the young men with the law firm Taylor and Cox, him being the Cox. Also with us, another veteran trial lawyer, Edward Pulsick, attorney for the boys as well. Actually, they're not boys. They're adults in the eyes of the law due to their age. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us tonight. My first question to clear up this matter, have your clients taken polygraphs? First to you, Tyler Cox.
Nancy, my clients have not taken a polygraph test, and I can tell you why. Because any lawyer worth their salt is going to tell their clients not to take a polygraph test under any circumstances. Two of my clients went in and made statements with me. We're not going to do a polygraph test because, one, as you know, they're not admissible in court, and so it wasn't going to be admissible anyway. You should never, ever, if you're a lawyer, allow your clients to take a polygraph test. Now, we allowed investigators from the jump to have access to their phones, their Life 360, everything. We have cooperated implicitly every step of the way. But no, they didn't take polygraph tests. But what I'll tell you is one of the other boys, who I won't mention their name, but I'm sure that you've heard, took one. The girl that Nolan was with took a stress analysis voice test, and so did the other boy. So that's the test they took. Both of them passed. And so, again, no lawyer worth of salt is going to tell his clients to take a polygraph test or anything like that.
I would like to corroborate part of what Tyler Cox just said. Any defense attorney, whether they're convinced truly convinced their client is innocent or guilty, they're not going to allow a poly. I've never seen that. I've had a couple of lawyers, maybe 3, in all the years I practiced, all the people I put behind bars, consent before trial to a poly. 3. And they were all criminal cases that carried severe penalties. So what he's saying is true, even if you think your client is innocent. Very rarely will you see a defense lawyer say, sure, take a poly. However, I disagree with you regarding their admittance into court. Polygraphs are allowed in civil trials. O.J. Simpson, he flunked horribly. And if both sides stipulate to the polygraph's admittance before the polygraph is taken, it can come into a criminal trial. The reality is that never happens. That never happens.
Right. At the time that we first cooperated with police, the first very week, the days after, just 1 to 2 days after the disappearance of Nolan Wells, we're not thinking about a civil suit. We're not thinking about that. We're thinking about how can we provide as much information to authorities so that they can find Nolan Wells. And it was not until after we spoke to officers and investigators that Nolan, unfortunately, his body was found on Horn Island, washed up. And it's unfortunate. And I hate that for Nolan because by all accounts, he was an incredible person. He was just truly remarkable in almost every sense of the word. But, I mean, we're not thinking about a civil suit at that point in time. We're trying to help authorities find our friend, who we can't find either.
Edward Pulsick joining us in addition to Tyler Cox, both of them veteran trial lawyers. He is with Taylor Dykema. Edward, how did you get involved in this case?
Well, I'd rather not talk about that. I can just tell you this. I can tell you that it was through a friend of a friend.
You're kidding, right? You're kidding me. Because when you tell me I'd rather not answer.
Well, I want to protect the names. I
igniting me to find out how you got involved in the case.
Well, hold on. I can tell you a little bit more. I can tell you this. I can tell you a close friend who knows the Ocean Springs, Mississippi community very, very well, is from the area, connected me to a friend of his. And then I found myself speaking to Tyler here. And Tyler and I instantly became very close friends. We both have blue pickup trucks, so now we're the Blues Brothers. We just became very close. We hit it off. Then I had the opportunity to speak to Warren, speak to Morgan, speak to Jax, and we hit it off also. And I immediately realized these are incredibly fine young men. I realized right away I wanted to help them out.
Ed, to you and Tyler, I'm not saying they have lied, and I'm not saying they haven't lied. I don't know. I have no reason to disbelieve your clients or to believe them. But you do know that people can look you right in the face and lie through your teeth, and you believe them. I've done it. I've had witnesses that I found out were lying to me, and it was a huge blow. I've had police officers. I worked a child trafficking case. My first child trafficking case. Worked it. I finally found the little girl. I went into a room full of sex workers. They went, she's in there. I'm like, there's no child in there. They went, she's the one in the white boots. She looked like she was 38 years old. She's 14. That said, we won the case. But fast forward about 10 months later, I was walking through the grand jury room and I saw these horrible federal court sketches. I'm like, oh, my stars. Is that who I think it is? It was my vice cops. They had been stealing from dopers, and they got indicted by the feds. And I had been out on the street with them every day for months trying to prove a child trafficking case. So just because somebody tells you the sky is blue does not mean the sky is blue. You do know that, right?
Well, I can tell you this: they were off Horn Island at 4:30 p.m. on July 4th, and Nolan Wells was seen alive.
Now we're getting somewhere.
And-
How can
yeah,
you
and
prove
let
that to me other than them telling you? I assume you've got GPS tracking and the call to Cito.
We have witnesses among other things, but I can also tell you this: they were off the island at 4:30 p.m. and Nolan Wells was seen alive by multiple people at 6 p.m. still on the island. And I'm sure Tyler would be happy to elaborate on that. But this is a no doubt
Good.
100%.
Please tell me, Tyler.
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
don't believe any of these people, and I don't disbelieve any of these people. I want to hear about witnesses that spotted him alive after 4:30, because I believe I can confirm the boat left around 4:30, and I'm referring to the Triton. That's the boat they were on. There are a lot of boats. Let's see the video of all the boats out there. So when I say Triton, I'm talking about the boat Nolan was on the way to the island. There's a lot of boats out there and a lot of witnesses too. This is from the Officer Tatum. Okay. There are witnesses placing him there at 6. And I want to be very clear, gentlemen, that I'm not convinced he drowned just because somebody said so. Even if he did drown, that does not mean that there wasn't foul play. Why is that mark on the back of his head? Was he hit on the head and fell in the water? Was he held under the water?
Nolan Wells bombshell. Friends' lawyers break their silence. New details emerge. That title is not clickbait. It is exactly what happened. A young man is dead. His friends are under suspicion. And the lawyers representing those friends just stepped in front of the cameras for the first time, and what they said does not close this case. It blows it wide open. July 4th. Horn Island, Mississippi. Nolan Wells boards a boat called the Triton. He goes to the island with a group of friends. The boat comes back. Nolan does not. His body is found later, washed up on Horn Island. Cause of death, officially undetermined. That is where this story begins. And that is where the questions start stacking up. Because here is the first thing investigators found. And I need you to stay with me on this. There is a mark on the back of Nolan's head. Not a surface mark. Subcutaneous. Meaning, beneath the skin, deep in the tissue, located on the occipital bone, the base of the skull. Now here is what makes that mark significant. There were no defensive wounds on Nolan's body. No bruising on the hands. No contusions on the arms. Nothing that says, this person saw something coming and tried to stop it. So we have a deep wound on the back of the skull, and zero signs of a fight. Those two facts together do not automatically mean foul play, but they do not quietly point to a simple accident either. If Nolan drowned, what put that mark on the back of his head? Now the autopsy. The medical examiner removed two things from Nolan's body: the lungs, the throat. The lungs, that makes complete sense. Standard protocol in any drowning investigation. You remove the lungs. You run tests. You determine, was there water present? Was the victim alive when they entered the water? Understood, expected, done in every case like this. But the throat, not the foot, not the hand, not the ear, not the shoulder. The throat. When a medical examiner removes the throat for analysis, there is a reason. They are looking for something specific. Ligature marks, from a rope or cord pressed against the neck. Manual compression bruising, from pressure applied by hand. Fracture of the hyoid bone, a small bone in the throat, that breaks under significant force. Scratches, internal bruising, signs of restriction. 1 month into this investigation, nobody has publicly explained why that throat was removed. No official statement, no cause of death confirmed, nothing. And sometimes, the silence around a detail tells you more than the detail itself. Now, before we go any further, here is what we know about Nolan Wells as a person. 1 paragraph. Because it matters. Ocean Springs, Mississippi kid. By every account, remarkable. Well-liked. Genuine. The kind of person people remember. Even the lawyers representing the friends under suspicion. could not say one negative thing about him. Not one. I'm telling you that now, after the forensics, because that is exactly when it should land, not as an introduction, as a weight. This is who the evidence is about. This is whose throat was removed on an autopsy table. This is whose skull carried that mark. Now keep that with you. So here is where Chapter 1 leaves us. A mark on the back of the skull, a throat removed, with no public explanation, no defensive wounds, no confirmed cause of death. 1 month of silence from the official investigation. And that's before we even get to what the lawyers said, because when they finally talked, they didn't just defend their clients. They dropped something that could flip this entire investigation upside down. Before we get into that, if you want true crime broken down fact by fact, no guessing, no dramatizing, no filling time with noise, Samuel Vale Crime Chronicles is exactly where you need to be. Hit subscribe right now. Because the next chapter is where this case gets complicated. 2 lawyers, 3 clients, 1 claim. Tyler Cox and Edward Pulsick, both veteran trial attorneys, came forward representing Warren, Morgan, and Jax. The 3 young men who were on the Triton that day. The 3 names the internet has spent 30 days destroying. And their opening position was not defensive. It was direct. Their clients left Horn Island at approximately 4:30 p.m. GPS data confirms the Triton's departure. Live 360 tracking, handed over to investigators. Full phone dumps, handed over within days, not weeks. Days. Now take a moment with that, because in case after case, the first thing someone with something to hide does is make evidence disappear. They clean the boat, they wipe the phone, they stall. These 3 handed everything over, before anyone asked twice. That is either the behavior of innocent people, or it is very calculated strategy. The evidence will tell us which. Now, here is the biggest claim in this entire case. Pay attention to this part. The lawyers say there are 2 witnesses, 2 people who were on Horn Island, on July 4th. Who knew Nolan Wells personally? Who can make a confirmed positive identification? And who placed Nolan Wells, alive, on that island, at 6 p.m.? 90 minutes after the Triton left. Both witnesses have already spoken to investigators. Both are confirmed to have given statements to police. Neither one is part of the friend group. Different ages, different social circle entirely. But here is the detail that cannot be ignored. The 2 witnesses know each other. They were together on the island that day, which means they had time, before speaking to investigators, to discuss what they saw. That does not make them liars. It makes them witnesses whose accounts need to be tested, separately, carefully, under pressure, because 2 people who saw the same thing together and talked about it before making a statement, that is a credibility question every investigator has to ask. This case is moving, and we are going to stay on it. Every time a new detail surfaces in the Nolan Wells investigation, we break it down right here, evidence first, no speculation. Subscribe to Samuel Vale Crime Chronicles right now, so you are here when the next piece drops. Now, 3 things the defense could not fully explain. Not accusations, gaps. Factual gaps that are sitting open, 1 month into this investigation. First, Nolan's phone. As of the time of this video, Nolan's personal phone has not been turned over to investigators. That phone contains GPS location data. It shows everywhere he went on that island. It holds his messages, his calls, his last known movements. It could confirm or destroy the 6 p.m. witness account. It could answer questions that 30 days of public debate has not been able to touch, and it has not been examined. Second, the Triton. The boat has not been searched. Not with luminol, which detects traces of blood invisible to the eye. Not with cadaver dogs. Not with alternative light sources used in forensic investigation. The lawyers say the boat has been available to law enforcement the entire time. And that may be true, but available and searched are not the same thing. 1 month in, That boat should have been processed. Third, the polygraph. Online, the story spread fast. All the boys took polygraphs. All of them passed. That is not what happened. According to their own attorneys, Warren, Morgan, and Jax did not take polygraph tests. The lawyers say that is standard legal advice, and they are not wrong. No defense attorney worth their experience puts their client in front of a polygraph. But the internet ran with a version of events. That was simply untrue. And that matters, because this case has been buried under layers of misinformation. That made it harder to see the actual facts. Then there is the Coast Guard call. After Nolan was reported missing, one of the young men called the Coast Guard and stayed on that call for 21 minutes. Hundreds of versions of that call are now circulating online, most of them altered. Many AI generated, some completely fabricated. The lawyers say the original call contains zero mention of Nolan being on the boat. No slip, no contradiction, nothing. 21 minutes on the phone with the Coast Guard. Reporting your friend missing. You decide what that reads like. So here is where this investigation stands. A mark on the back of the skull. A throat removed from the body. Still unexplained publicly. A phone that has not been handed to investigators. A boat that has not been forensically searched. 2 witnesses, with a credibility question still attached. One 90-minute gap in the timeline that nobody has fully closed. Someone was the last person with Nolan Wells, and right now, that person has no name, no charge, and no reason to come forward until somebody makes them. Nolan Wells was on a holiday weekend, surrounded by people, and he still ended up alone. That should not be the end of his story. If you know anything about what happened on Horn Island on July 4th, the tip line is 228-769-3063. There is a $125,000 reward for information, leading to the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells. This case is not closed, and neither are we. Subscribe to Samuel Vale Crime Chronicles, because when the next detail breaks in the Nolan Wells investigation, this is exactly where we will be breaking it down. First,